Hello everyone, Kitanato here. With 2.1's release, the two agents Yuzuha and Alice will be officially joining the ZZZ roster. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on Alice and all her viable teammates. To be more specific, we're going to be ranking all of Alice's possible team members on a tier list. But before we discuss Alice's team members, I think it's important for us to discuss exactly what her kit does. If you're already familiar with her kit or you simply don't care, then skip to this timestamp. Now, onto the overview. Since this isn't a video specifically for talking about Alice's kit, I won't be going too in depth, but basically Alice's kit revolves around building up her unique resource, Blade Etiquette, and spending this resource by performing her enhanced basics. In that sense, her playstyle is very similar to that of Miyabi in the sense that most of her damage comes from her enhanced basic attacks, and her playstyle revolves around building the resources required to perform those enhanced basic attacks. And quick side note, I will be calling Blade Etiquette Blade Energy just because that's easier for me to say and easier to write in the script. So if you hear me say Blade Energy, just remember I'm referring to Alice's Blade Etiquette. Alice's Blade Energy can be built up to a maximum of 300, with every 100 Blade Energy equating to a level of her enhanced basic, meaning that her enhanced basic attack can be charged up to a maximum level of 3. The only level of her enhanced basic attack that's really important to her kit is her level 3 enhanced basic, though you can find some use using her level 1 and level 2 enhanced basic just to get rid of some small mobs, but 99% of the time you will be using her level 3 enhanced basic attack exclusively. When she uses her enhanced basic attack, specifically the level 3 version of the enhanced basic attack, she will trigger a polarized assault. Her polarized assaults are equivalent to the regular assaults in every way except for how they are triggered. A polarized assault will be triggered after Alice's level 3 enhanced basic, regardless of current anomaly buildup. Polarized assaults are also capable of triggering disorders, even off of the regular assault anomaly. Alice also comes with some offensive utilities that are unrelated to her enhanced basic attacks. For example, when any squad member, including Alice, triggers an assault, Alice will apply a DOT effect on the enemy that deals 2.5% of the original assault's damage every second that the assault is on the enemy for 10 seconds. But another thing is that if a disorder is triggered during the DOT effect, it'll remove the DOT effect. It'll increase the damage of the disorder by 18% for every second left of the assault effect, maxing out at 180%. Some important things to note about Alice's Blade Energy generation is that she, number 1, gains 15 Blade Energy whenever she triggers an assault, but only if it's through filling the anomaly bar. So only regular assaults will give her 15 Blade Energy, while her polarized assault will not generate any Blade Energy. The second part is that when her additional ability is active, she will generate 15 Blade Energy when any team member, including herself, triggers a disorder. Alice has some more interesting stuff in her kit, but for the purposes of this video, those are all the aspects of her kit that need to be talked about. You'll see later on how all these things affect her team build. Now let's get straight into the tier list. So let's start our ranking with talking about some of Alice's good supportive options. At least the ones you can imagine running with her. First, let's start with her best in slot. Hands down is going to be Yuzuha. Yuzuha is the best in slot support for basically every anomaly agent in the game. The buffs she gives are really high and are geared directly towards anomalies, so every anomaly character in the game besides Alice is gonna really like running Yuzuha, maybe except Miyabi, but even then he's only second place. And right behind Yuzuha is gonna be Astra. Even though Yuzuha is better than Astra on anomaly teams, that doesn't mean that Astra isn't really good and isn't still one of the best supports. She's second only to Yuzuha. They both provide a lot of attack, they both provide damage bonus, things that anomaly agents can benefit from. And though Yuzuha buffs anomaly damage and disorder damage, she's still a really good option regardless. Although I will say the crit damage she gives to Alice is basically useless, but besides that, the quick assists she gives are also pretty neat. Some other supports that you can run well with Yuzuha would be Lucy. I'd put Lucy like a B tier option. Though Lucy is a good option, there are better options, right? Like for example, one of those better options, Nicole. Nicole I'd say is an A tier option for Alice. Though defense shred is very useful with anomaly agents as well. The only problem is that due to the short buff duration, and at least from my experience with Alice anyway, her animations are a bit longer. And though if you're able to line up the Nicole EX with her enhanced basic 3, that will be really good. And if you're able to do that well, then she goes up to S tier, but I'll just put her in A tier because the majority of people will not be able to do that. Another great option that people may sleep on, Caesar. I'd say she's just better than Lucy because she gives more attack plus more utility, but I wouldn't say she far surpasses Nicole because, like I said, if you play Nicole really well, she can be put in A tier, but Caesar just caps out here in A tier, just being a bit better than Lucy. Another option that people will like sleep on heavily is Seth. Seth is like if you gave me Seth like straight into like bad tier, but I'd say Seth is actually a really decent option on anomaly agents, and if you're able to play Seth really well, he might actually be like he could be S tier, but you know, just being honest with ourselves, I'd say he's A tier. He has more utility than Lucy. He buffs anomaly proficiency by a good amount, so I feel comfortable placing him A tier. Next, let's talk about some stun characters, or more specifically some stun characters that focus more on like buffing. Most stunners won't really work well with Alice at all, because like most anomaly agents don't really benefit much from the stun window. So stunners like Coleta, stunners like Ambi, stunners like Lycon, stunners like Lighter, that don't really provide any buffs that Alice can take advantage of are almost useless with her, because at the end of the day, most of her damage is coming from her anomaly, and anomaly doesn't benefit the most from stun. And at the same time, if you're running a disorder comp, disorders give an amount of stun each time they are triggered, so you'll still be able to reach a stun window relatively quick. I'd say a character like Pulchra is actually a really decent option for Alice because of the damage increase of all her attacks. I wouldn't put her above Lucy, because she does, once again, stunners are less beneficial. That reaching the stun window faster doesn't benefit an anomaly agent as much, and I feel like Lucy gives like more utility. And other stunners like Jufufu and even Trigger, I put Trigger slightly higher just because they're the GOAT. And if you have signature, then it's like up to S tier, but assuming M0W0, Trigger I guess can be placed in A tier or B tier. Just for the purposes of this list, I'll put her in A tier, and we can move on to the next group of characters. Now, the main meat and bones of Alice teams is gonna be running her with another anomaly agent. And Alice is a character that can work well. Mainly, you play Alice as an on-field DPS. You can even just have her as an on-field DPS with maybe an off-field anomaly agent like Vivian, who's another S tier pick, or Bernice, who, hot take, I'd say I'll say she's another S tier pick, though like pretty, you know, definitively below Vivian, I'd say. But you can run Bernice and still be really happy with yourself, because both of them provide really good utility when working with Alice, the same way they do with like working with any anomaly agent, because of just how much support they're able to provide to Alice while also not taking up any of Alice's field time, because she's a character that really benefits from field time and building up her resources. In fact, I'll even argue to say running her with Vivian may actually be better. If you have to choose just like one other character, I say running her with Vivian is better than running her with Astra, I say. So we can even bump Vivian up. Really, you can run her with any other anomaly character, really. But I'd say her best partners are gonna be Yanagi and Miyabi. And Miyabi for obvious reasons, because just Miyabi is broken. But at the same time, Alice's ability to just trigger disorders really quickly off of other anomalies really benefits Miyabi, because Alice's ability to trigger disorders really quickly off of other anomalies really benefits Miyabi, because it lets her build her frost stacks and perform her enhanced basic more. And also, this team's just really cool because it's something you can do. You can perform both of their enhanced basics close up with one another, and it looks really cool because they're both slashing around, so like bonus points for that. Yanagi is just the best with Alice by a long shot, because Yanagi does so many disorders using her EX special and ultimate that can charge Alice's enhanced basic, which can in turn trigger disorders again, which Yanagi can also trigger disorders off of. So there's just lots of disorders and lots of damage. I'd even argue to say Yanagi does better than Miyabi when running with Alice. That's just my opinion though. One supportive option that we actually completely forgot about is, I sincerely apologize, is Rina. I completely don't know how I forgot about Rina, but we did forget about Rina. Rina is a character that works really well, similarly to Nicole. I'll just bump her down simply because her buff duration is really short. We're zooming M0. In fact, I think her buff duration might be around the same length as Alice's enhanced basic animation, which is really inconvenient and really strange. Not really strange. That's just like Rina being really strange. But if you have M1, maybe you can move her up to S tier, but I think bottom of A tier is fine. Now, getting back on track to what I was actually talking about, another anomaly character you can run her with is Grace, and the Grace goes to bottom of B tier. In terms of just synergy with Alice and like how it feels to play, you can bump her to like bottom of S tier, but in terms of how much damage you're actually going to be doing, I think bottom of B tier, because Grace just sucks so bad, and Grace just so bad. Worst anomaly agent in the entire game, and it's tragic too. I like Grace, but she's just so bad. But she works, she functions, but you might have to like work your behind off to even get anything out of Grace. Now for the next two anomaly agents, I think we need to talk a bit about exactly how these three interact with anomalies. So Alice is actually not a super bad option when working with these two, because normally you'd think it'd just be bad because they're fighting over anomaly buildup and that might reduce the damage, but them both being anomaly agents who build AP and attack will not diminish the damage of the final assault by too much. But at the same time, even though she can perform disorders off of these two's assaults, she can also perform disorders off of her own assaults, and then assuming you're running her with someone else, their own anomaly procs, like their shocks or their freezes or their corruption, and that's just more beneficial than triggering assaults off of your teammates' assaults when you could have just triggered those assaults yourself, right? And for someone like Jane, for example, Jane needs to trigger those by herself. Like, she can make her assaults crit, but that's her assaults. She does not buff the damage of Alice's assaults by much, and Alice doesn't buff the damage of Jane's assaults by much. So these two characters will be kind of playing on the same team but separately at the same time. So I think Jane, in terms of just synergy, I put her bottom of A rank, maybe. Hell, I put her like right above Jufufu, because like you can play Jane and Alice on the same team, but like, if I'm being honest, having these two at the same time doesn't really benefit you in any way. Though I'd say that Piper actually works better than Jane with Alice, because Piper is able to build physical anomaly faster than Jane, and while Jane's will do a good amount more damage, with this team and how it triggers disorders, that doesn't matter as much, I feel like. Well, it really depends. If you're able to get her enhanced basic built really fast, then Piper is better, but if not, and she's better but not by much. Both of these characters are characters you shouldn't really be running with Alice at all, in my opinion. Now for just some miscellaneous characters that I think will be pretty fun to talk about: Billy, Thorin, and Necromata. These three are physical attack agents, so obviously in your head you think, okay, they're attack agents, they shouldn't even be on this list, why are they here? And in all honesty, you're right, these three really should not benefit from these at all. But all three of these characters have aspects of their kit that highly benefit from having assaults be triggered. So her ability to just trigger assaults, not whenever, but trigger assaults really frequently, is going to be really beneficial for these three characters. Also, assuming if you're running Fanged Metal, triggering assaults is going to really help them keep uptime on that buff. So it can be really beneficial if you're running with these three, but like all three of these really suck. Right, so at the end of the day, they have like no synergy. I just thought it'd be like something to discuss, that they could be options. Another option I need to explain really quickly is Sukaku, and why she won't be on this list, because she does not really work with Alice at all. Her attack buff is actually pretty decent, 500 if it's uncharged, and then 1000 if you're able to max it out. But at the same time, it takes a while for her to build those buffs up. And for like an ice character, you can actually justify, okay, it takes a while, but there's ice defense shred, there's ice damage up. But for the character that only gets the attack, like a physical anomaly agent, that doesn't benefit them at all, right? So it's just a lot of time for not that much gain. And at the same time, Sukaku only gives one character that buff. And on an anomaly team, you want to be running several characters, like 2 DPSs, 1 support. So if only one of those characters gets buffed, it really diminishes your damage. So like, let's say Lucy's 600 attack to 2 characters is actually going to be more beneficial than 1000 attack to a single character, especially with how Lucy's able to keep near permanent uptime on that buff, while Sukaku is going to really struggle keeping permanent uptime on that buff on a lot of teams. So Sukaku isn't even going to be on this list because she's such a bad option. The last option I'm going to discuss is going to be Harumasa, because yeah, he functions. I'll place him on this list. He kind of functions. Let's be real, no one really likes playing Harumasa. I'll put him bottom of B tier just because he can function if you play him with Atlas on an anomaly team, but there's no real synergy between them. I know I said he'd be the last, but like last character I feel needs some discussing. Pan Yinhu. Pan Yinhu, if you assuming you're running her with Jufufu, which already if you're doing that you're making a mistake. If you're running just like Alice and Pan Yinhu, literally like the worst possible option in the game, like, because basically no damage, no build up, no nothing, no boosts, no debuffs, no absolutely nothing. But if you're running her with Jufufu, then I guess it could technically work because he does debuff the enemy and make them take more damage. And if you're playing with Yijuan, then like at that point just play Yijuan, don't play Alice, But like if you're running with teammates or people that can trigger its additional ability, then Pan Yinhu works. But if not, then just put him back on the bench. And yeah, that is our tier list. These are the characters that work. Anyone that isn't here doesn't work, and you probably should not be putting them on a team with Alice at all. And though there are characters here that technically can kinda sorta but not really work with Alice, I just highly recommend you just don't do that to yourself, because you will not have a good time. So with that being said, let's get on to the outro. So that was the tier list. If you agreed with the tier list, maybe leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you disagreed with the tier list, leave a like, subscribe, and then drop a comment on exactly why you disagree with the tier list. Either way, I hope you enjoyed. I've been Kitanatu, the one and only, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.